in a world full of negative people. Hey man, I'm just trying to be a positive guy, a positive farmer, a positive outfitter. This is a Shark Farmer podcast with your host, Rob Sharkey. Whatever.
And welcome again to Shark Farmer Podcast. Hey, I'm your host, Rob Sharkey, and today we're going to go down, further down in the state of Illinois, the great state, the once great state. It was at one point.
Future great state.
You remember
Someday.
Abe Lincoln? That guy?
He was
like,
awesome.
everybody loved him. And then we had Ronald Reagan. I mean, a lot of people hang their coat on that.
That was good.
We had President Barack Obama.
Mm-hmm. We did.
Today, we're talking with Dan Mehochko, and we're not going to get political, are we?
I hope not.
How are you doing today?
I am outstanding, thank you.
Is it nice to get out of the house?
It was wonderful to get out of the house. It really was, yeah.
But, okay, so you live where?
I live in Morris, actually. Morris, Illinois, straight east of here. So it was a nice little drive. Wasn't too bad. When you texted me, I was like, yeah, I'll go. I'll get out.
That's what I said. So, well, we
Can we
do
meet
it
in
over the
Iowa
phone. You're
or
like,
Minnesota?
Nope, I'll drive. You're very interesting. You've got a very interesting ag background. I've done
a lot of stuff. I've got a varied past.
Is
Yeah.
it because you're not good at your job?
It
you
is.
just keep switching?
Once people figure it out, they're like, dude, you got to go do something else. Sorry, you got to go.
All right, I'm going to roll into my ad, okay?
That would be awesome.
Do you know what the best place to get your ag news, marketing, mechanical advice?
I really wish I did.
Blogs, vlogs, I don't know, all the other stuff, YouTubes. You know the best place to go get that is?
I was going to Google it, but I was hoping you tell me.
Well, think about it. If you're going to type in a website, what would be the place to go?
I don't know. I'd ask you probably.
Agriculture.com.
Oh, that makes sense.
Who has that website? I mean, who had the forethought? Who had the brains to get agriculture.com? Because that had to be done, like the early 90s?
A while ago.
Successful Farming. Successful Farming has got the best website out there.
They're on it.
Yes, and do you know what you can find there?
Everything?
Everything good. I mean, there's other farm websites, but honestly, they're full of fluff, right? Yeah. You can find Shark Farmer TV. You can also find my blogs, which I'm supposed to be doing another one of, apparently. Mrs. Shark Farmer is nodding her head. Yes, dear. Yes. Yeah, you can find all that stuff on there because it is agriculture.com. It just necessarily has to be the best farm site ever invented in the history of Earth.
The name says it all.
It really does. I wonder who has farm.com. Do you think it's taken? I mean, we could jump on that.
Get on my phone, look it
Yeah.
up. Do they have the TV show?
It's a little confusing, right? Because we did the Shark Farmer segments with Successful Farming. The show on Dish Network is called Shark Farmer TV. I don't know. Hopefully they all play together.
I think they will. I mean, right now, everybody's got to play together.
I have Shark Farmer
You
copyrighted.
just all have to wear masks to do it.
You should be wearing a mask right now. Did the microphone guards, do they?
It is. They're
they're-
6 foot apart, so we're good.
Agriculture.com, the best place to get your agriculture news and or information. All right, Dan Mehochko. It's a mouthful.
It is.
How many times do you get that name butchered?
It's been twice now. No, I usually tell people, they always say, either how do you say it or how do you spell it? And I always say, well, this is how I pronounce it. You're never going to pronounce it that way, and I don't care.
How do you pronounce it?
Mehochko. Just how you say it.
All right, well, you made me nervous there. I know when I first met you, in my mind, I think I called you something else.
Mr. Mehochko. Yeah, I think
To me, it did not. Mehochko didn't roll off the
I
tongue.
get that a little bit. Yeah.
Okay.
It's never bothered me. It's been spelled so many different ways. I never care. So,
You had that name your whole life?
yeah, I have. Which was crazy, because I was asking for other ones, and
Okay. Let's go back to Little Dan. How did you grow up?
so little Dan grew up in a little town called South Wilmington, Illinois, little Italian town. My dad's family was into farming, and we had the farm, but we grew up in town and grew up going out to the farm all the time. So out on Grandpa and Grandma's farm all the time. Grew up around that, played a lot of sports. After high school, went to college for 2 years, but I was working. And so then I got an offer to work full-time in a bank. I was an ag loan officer in the early 80s.
Oh, good night.
20 years old, ag loan officer in the 80s. Farmers twice my age crying at my desk because, what was going on in the 80s. It was crazy.
Automatically, I thought you were the 20-year-old. They were going to be ticked because you had to be telling them bad news.
I did that. I did some repossessing for the bank.
Ouch.
Yeah, well, not of farm stuff, but of other things. Repossessed a few cars, repossessed a boat.
What?
Yeah.
Like you went out in the middle of the night in like the TV show?
Yeah. You know me in the calmer days. Then it was a little crazier, Dan, and so wasn't afraid to do that kind of stuff.
I would have never guessed that.
Yeah. Yeah. Repossessed a guy's boat. And as I was then giving him his personal belongings off it, he kept telling me that he was going to make the payments right. And I said, what you better not ever do is see me when I've been out at night. I said, because I won't stop beating you. And he looked at me and I said,
Hell.
dude, you got to make your payments.
Wow.
Yeah, it was bad. It was not a good look on me.
And you were a farm
I was a farm
loan officer.
Yeah.
Do you say where?
At Mazan State Bank, a little community bank.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if it was
gone now. No, little community bank. But then my wife got out of college, and she's a dental hygienist, and so she was making more money than I was because banks didn't pay very much then. And she said, you know what, if we're going to do this deal, you're going to quit your job and go back to college. And so I did. Went back to Illinois State, commuted, got my degree, and went into – we had – at the bank that time, we had a group that was doing a farm market recording. I liked working with them and got into the markets. Did some work at ISU on trading and systems trading, and got out, went into an elevator as an assistant manager, did a farm marketing program, and went on from there.
Were you good as Steve Bridge?
No.
No, that guy's
nobody's
good, isn't he?
yeah. Steve Bridge is the man. I text him that all the time. I just say, you're the man.
You name all the farm broadcasters of all time. I mean, honestly, he is at the very top.
He's the man. But,
yeah.
But anyway, I was into that, and then I went to work for Continental Grain, and I'm an ex-con now, all the guys that work for Continental.
Ex-con.
Yeah, that's what they call us. There's a big group that, see each other once in a while, and that was a good time. Continental sold out to Cargill, and I didn't want to go to Minneapolis. That's where Cargill wanted me, so I actually spent a little bit of time as a DSM for Wiffles Hybrids.
Did you really?
So while I was at, they
haven't advertised on this podcast.
I think they
They're
would.
like
They're a
30
family
miles from here, and they won't advertise.
Good family operation. You guys would get along really well. I'll text Bill and Bob both, and text
You do
them.
that. Yeah, because I've been on them.
Yeah,
but
they would be good.
They just say no.
Well, back when I was at Continental, one of the things I did was I managed the specialty programs for North America. So I traded for a long time, was a SIF trader, and then
that's stressful.
That's a little stressful. So the first time they called me to Chicago, I had an elevator in Seneca. They called me to Chicago to be a SIF trader for a couple weeks, take a guy's while he's on vacation.
Okay.
And they called me to the wheat desk, and a guy by the name of John Miller, who now runs the ag group for the BNSF, he was the head wheat trader, and he's an intimidating dude. And I get up there, and I looked at him, I said, I know nothing about wheat. And he said, okay. And I said, no, I don't know what the grades of wheat are or anything. And he looked at me and he goes,
you're trading it.
He goes, I don't care if you can grade it. I want you to trade the stuff. And he just shook his head, and that was it. And so I traded their position for a while, and then I came back up, traded SIF beans for a little bit, and then moved into the specialty group. But I had high oil corn. We started high oil corn.
I remember
then
that.
Yeah, it was great with
Wiffles.
With Wiffles
Yeah,
and DuPont. DuPont owned the trademark, how to do it. And then Wiffles was the leading seed company.
Those wheat traders are insane, though.
Those guys are wacky.
I tried to drink with one time. Greg O'Leary from Chicago. I tried to drink with him.
Yep.
We said, let's order a vodka, a tonic, right?
Yep.
That thing was, I don't know how there was no tonic, but I don't know how they made the vodka stronger. I think it was moonshine and vodka.
So he's from Newark, just north of where we live.
Oh, you know Greg, do you?
Well, I know of him. I think I've met him a couple times back in the day, but know a lot of people up in that area.
Yeah.
Yep.
He rebuilds bowling alleys or some damn thing.
Yeah.
All those traders got some weird thing about them.
They've got a drive to do different things. They all think a little differently.
I suppose. So when did you move on to Louis Dreyfus?
Shoot, I don't know. 2000, I guess. I always wanted to stay back in the grain business when I left Continental, but I just didn't want to move to Minneapolis.
You're very animated,
I am.
by the way. Nobody can see us.
I know.
Okay.
I have a face for TV, so I really wish they could.
Emily can see. Yes, he's animated, isn't he? He should be on TV.
Everything I think it's the Italian side.
All right.
Anyway,
I loved her on Seinfeld. By the way.
Well, so I worked for her dad. So Louis Dreyfus.
Whoa. What?
Yes. So I didn't work directly for him. I worked.
No. What? Who's dad?
Julia Louis Dreyfus. That's the company. Yes.
That's the chick from Seinfeld.
Yes,
That's her dad.
Yes, it is. So
this whole time I made that joke, and you just look at me like I'm a moron.
Well, I look at you like that more often than today.
All right,
But
continue, sir.
so her family, the Louis Dreyfus
She's
company,
great in that show, by
she
the way.
was really good. Yeah.
Is her hair naturally curly?
I wouldn't know that.
Okay.
Or the natural color, but
Have
I
you
do
met
know
her?
that. No, I have not. I met her dad.
Did you met George?
I did not. I would like to have met. I'd rather have met
Newman?
her than him. I don't want Newman.
Yeah. All right. So anyway, would you quit sidetracking? You're working for the chick off Seinfeld's dad.
So I'm working for Louis Dreyfus.
And this is one that show's on.
Yeah, it was crazy. He was a pretty good guy. Her dad was. Gerard William Louis Dreyfus was his name. So I had an elevator in Morris, but it was really just a space to sit because I really just traded a position. I traded a basis position for them for Illinois.
Okay.
I just traded wherever I could establish a position. Did that for about 7 years, and I actually traded the facility I was sitting at. I made a deal on the facility. There was a company that wanted to be on the river. I knew what we paid for the facility. I didn't think we'd get our money back, and so I tried to get our money back, and I did it and gave up the facility. Well, in the meantime, so then they
What
said,
the hell is wrong with you?
when I was hired at Louis Dreyfus, I was told,
How do you concentrate on one thing?
I can't. It's tough. But anyway, so I got a call one day and they said, hey, when this deal closes, what are you going to do? You don't have a place to go sit now. And this is kind of back before anybody worked from home. And I said, well, I'll just trade from home. And they said, yeah, so would everybody in the company. We can't do that.
Yeah.
Why don't you move to Claypool, Indiana and trade the bean position? And I asked the wife and kids. They didn't want to move. They came back to me and said, the safety director for North America just retired. We'd like you to become the North American safety director. And I said, no trader should ever become a safety guy.
That seems like an odd leap.
Yes.
Okay.
But their comment was, you know our people, you know the systems, you know how kind of everything works. If you could do this, it would only be for a short time. And I said, as long as I get to help develop our safety program, I'll do it. And
Okay.
so another gentleman and I, we set up the program, hired a vice president of safety, whatever. I was a safety director for 4 years for North America.
Were you the guy that made everybody wear the hat?
Yeah. So I told everybody
This
that
hard
would do
hat.
it, everybody in the corporate side, I said, I always want to be good cop. I want people to like me. I didn't want to be the safety guy people didn't like.
I hate to break something to you, Dan. You'll never be the guy everybody likes.
Well, I get that. But anyway, I had 49 facilities throughout North America. I spent a lot of time in your favorite place, Saskatchewan.
Yeah.
I think I said it better than you say it.
Saskatchewan.
Yeah, it's in Saskatchewan.
It doesn't really matter. Nobody listens
It's
up there.
funny when I've heard you talk to people about Regina. I would fly in and out of Regina all the time and laugh every time I said it. Yes. See,
A single prop right into Regina.
Yeah, right down there in the valley. Yeah. Yeah, I would go there because we had a canola plant. But anyway, I had canola, ethanol, biodiesel, export elevators, cotton warehouses, steel warehouse in Mexico City, coffee warehouse in Mexico City, citrus plants in Florida. So
This is perfect for you because your mind could go in 1,000 directions.
Exactly right.
And you could actually say that's what I'm supposed to do.
exactly right. So it was good. But the problem was I was gone 160 nights a year.
Yeah, and you're married.
And I'm
I
married.
don't, still to this day do not realize what your wife sees in you.
I have no idea. I always say I'm glad I convinced her to say yes then, because now if something,
Oh, yeah.
if we were single now and I met
No.
her, she would be like, "Are you freaking kidding me? No, I'm good."
I mean, don't kid yourself. She shouldn't have said yes then.
Totally agree. Yeah, she's awesome.
Yes, you've got an amazing wife and you're gone 160 days.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so I said, I essentially gave him a 2-year warning. I kept saying, if we don't find something, I'm going to leave because I have to do something different. A buddy of mine, I was traveling and he wanted to meet for lunch, and I got a trip canceled because of weather. And we met for lunch, and he said, I don't know how you're doing this. Hey, there's this gig I saw at Growmark. I think you'd be great at it. Next thing I know, I'm working for Growmark, and I've been there 9 years.
You got a Farm Bureau tattoo on your lower back.
I do. It's a sweet one.
I mean, that's quite a career. I mean, you've played with some big dogs.
I've done some cool things. I do a lot of work with Grain and Feed Illinois. I do a lot of work with National Grain and Feed in D.C., and so it's been really nice. It's been a good time.
We went through a program, right?
Mm-hmm.
We were you actually said it, and I steal this all the time. You said it's like a master's degree for ag leadership, the Illinois Ag Leader Program Foundation.
Yep.
for 2 years, I knew you.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know anything about what you have been talking about lately. And then, as with this Silo movie coming up,
Right.
let's transition over to that.
Yep.
Well, just go ahead and tell me the story of the grain entrapment.
We never really talked about it much, what happened in our family, until that came out. First 5 years of my wife and I's marriage is a really crazy time. So first of all, I convinced her to stick with me, but we got married.
Well done, by the way.
I always tell people, it's funny, I keep her picture on my phone, and anytime somebody doesn't think or questions whether I can sell or not, I pull that picture up, and I'm like, oh yeah, I got this. And so anyway, got married. I quit my job, went back to college. Her mom was diagnosed with ALS. I graduated college and got a job. We had our baby. Her mom passed away, and then I got a different job, and then her dad was killed.
What time period?
All in 5 years.
Yikes.
The first 5 years of our marriage. Both our families farmed in the area. My family was kind of on the east side. Hers was west and around the Mazan area.
Mm-hmm.
And I was working at Continental Grain in Seneca. The Sunday, January, I think it was 18th, her dad was at our house. Her mom had passed away 9 months prior from ALS. And so we had a 7-month-old by then. Her dad was at our house playing with his only grandchild, and he made a comment to me that he was going to haul some corn that week because he had a bin going bad. So if you remember, that would have been the 92 crop, which was similar in condition and in quality than last year's crop.
It was a
lots of
wet
FM,
year, right?
Wet year,
Yeah.
lots of FM, didn't store well. And he said, I got a bin going bad. And I said, well, just haul it to my elevator or haul it to Morris. I'll see what I can do, help you out, but let's get rid of it.
Got an inside guy. That's never a bad thing.
Got a guy on the inside. I get a call January 20th that morning from local co-op, Mazan Farmers Elevator, which isn't around anymore. But anyway, general manager calls and he says, there's been an accident on the farm. You need to get back as soon as you can. And so at that point,
he said the farm. So you knew it was.
Well, all he said was the farm. And
Okay.
so I didn't know. So I thought my grandpa's still alive. It's probably my grandpa.
Mm-hmm.
Or I didn't know which farm, but I just wanted to start working that way. So that's when we still all had bag phones. So I'll never forget the bag phone sitting in my pickup, picked it up, and I called back to the elevator, and one of their clerks answered, and I said, what am I getting into? All she said was, Ken's been in the bin for 20 minutes. I knew right then what it was. I'm in the business. I know what's going on. So I went right to that farm. My grandpa and the general manager of the elevator were both there. And the ambulance had just pulled out. My brother-in-law, who had just graduated college and was teaching, he was there, just pulled in. And he was kind of, what's going on? What's all these people? So I told him to get in my truck. And I told my grandpa to put a chain over the entrance because people, when there's an accident, everybody's got to go see it, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And we had 8,000 bushels of corn laying on the ground because they cut the bin in 3 spots, drained the bin.
What year was this?
This was 93, January 20th, 93.
I don't know when that practice started place, but obviously they were doing it then.
Yeah, I think it was they kind of just thought, how are they going to empty that bin, right? And because I don't know that it had been really well known then. It wasn't happening as often then. I took my brother-in-law, we headed to the hospital. I kind of broke it to him every few miles of, hey, this isn't good. Hey, I just want to prepare you. This is a 23-year-old kid, right? So I'm like, hey, this is what's happening. So we got to the hospital. Somebody had already gone and gotten my father-in-law's parents. They were still alive and brought them to the hospital. Doctor comes into the room. Just us 4 were in. We're the only family there, and said he didn't make it. My wife's grandparents were really shocked by it. They just couldn't think, how could that happen? I knew that it wasn't going to be good. And then the doctor said, because this was an accident, I need somebody to identify the body. And they all just looked at me. And I'll never forget, my wife's grandpa said, well, Dan will do that. And I went back there and had to do that, talked to the doctor for a while. By the time I got back out, now there's a lot of local people around. And my dad has called my wife, found her, and sent her there because her sister was 11 at the time, her younger sister.
Okay.
And now both her parents are gone. We took her, and we had already agreed to do this. We took her and raised her.
So this would be your sister-in-law?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, and so raised her, and while it was sad, it was actually great for me because it made me grow up. Remember when I said I acted like a knucklehead when I was at the bank and repossessing things, and that really helped me grow up. But we never really talked about that. We never really told people, and the reason was I really didn't want my wife to go through it again. Every time, when somebody hears that's what happened, they want to know the story. And so it just always comes up. And I just didn't really want her to go through with that. And so we never really talked about it much. If it came up, it came up. If it didn't, that's fine. One time I was on committee for National Grain and Feed, and I had introduced a speaker on a topic, and it was on lockout tagout.
Which is, for people that don't know.
So that is essentially, it's a safety procedure where you are locking out the energy source to a piece of equipment.
Mm-hmm.
You lock it, and then you put a tag on it saying who locked it. It's your padlock, and only one key for it. He was going to come up, and I said, can I have a minute? I want to tell people why this is so important.
Mm-hmm.
And I told that story real quick, and he's looking at me. When I got done, he said, if you'd want to take more than a minute and give us a little more detail on that, I think it'd be great. But that's really the only time I had talked about it. And then when Silo came out, and you had a director or producer on,
Sam Goldberg.
Yeah,
Yep.
had him on, I thought, maybe this is time to start saying something. So my wife, Julie, and I talked about it a little bit. And then there was a gentleman in Mantino this last fall that was killed in a grain bin.
Yeah.
And that became the third person I've known personally killed in a grain bin. And so I asked a few people, I said, I think everybody knows one person or can say that they know one person. How many know two? And now I know three. There was another gentleman in our area that was killed in a grain bin. And I said, it's time to start saying something about it and talking about it. And so I do a lot of market outlooks, a lot of public speaking for our members, for our customers. And this fall, I started asking, do you mind if I take a few minutes at the end and just tell our family story?
Yeah.
And tell people, about not getting in the bins. And so I've done that a couple times. Well, then at the National Grain and Feed Convention, they were going to show Silo, the movie.
Mm-hmm.
One of the guys I work with asked if I would say something at the end. So at the end, they gave some stats, and then they handed me the microphone. And I told the story just from my side. I said, this is how I went through the day.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, I said, a lot of people say, if you experience something, this is what happens. This is what happens to everybody else. And this is what goes on. And I made a point to say, listen, that's not working. People are still getting in bins.
Mm-hmm.
But here's what you miss. Here's what that person that gets in the bin, here's what they can miss. And I said what all my father-in-law has missed from then. He missed his last child getting married. He got to see one grandchild. He now would have 12. He missed the first 4 of them graduating from college and the next 2 being in college. He's missed all that kind of stuff. That's what happens when you get in a grain bin and don't take the necessary precautions. And if you don't get out, that's what you can miss. And this was all mostly general managers or CEOs. And I said, I'm begging you, don't let your people get in a bin. And then supposed to go do that at a couple more previews of the movie or showing of the movie. And then the Rona hit and travel stopped, and that was it. So
yeah. Do you know what happened that day with your father-in-law?
So, yeah, the funny thing is that bin is still standing, but what it looks like was, he had some damaged corn in there, a lot of FM, and it looks like he had went up to knock it down, and the truck driver that was there said all of a sudden it stopped flowing, and he went up, and the only thing he could see was his hand. That scene in the movie where they show his hand in the corn,
yeah.
The guy next to me put his hand on my back because my legs were shaking so hard. That's what the truck driver mentioned, and that's all we know about it. So,
Yeah, I've done it.
yeah, I know. It was amazing the people that have come up and told us about, I've done that 100 times.
Yeah.
I've done that 1,000 times.
Let's talk about this Silo, the movie, right? It made a story of it. It personalized it, and then you are personalizing it. Do you think that's what it's going to take to get people to listen?
I really do. I think people that have an experience, that have a real experience in it, have to get out and make it personal and make it emotional. Explain to them that, listen, you're going to make a snap decision, you're going to get in a bin.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot do this. This is what you'll miss if you do this. This is what can happen. Because everybody thinks it's not going to happen to them, right? They're not.
Yeah.
Everything's going to be fine, so.
Okay, you said that at the end of these meetings, you bring this up now.
Mm-hmm.
What's the reaction you're seeing?
It's been really good because it's been interesting. In the grain side of things, I've been around a long time. So usually when I go to speak somewhere, somebody in the crowd, even if it's a new customer, new member, somebody in the crowd knows me or has heard me or something. So they'll always come up. They have all come up and either said, yeah, I remember hearing about that, or I remember something about it, and they want to talk to me. But the last couple times I did the Outlook side of it, I had 2 people each time come up and showing pictures of their bins and having damage or FM in it and asking what they should do with that. That's what you want, right? And then I'm always asking the elevators in the room, or like at the NGFA, I said it, if the elevators have to do something to help. If a farmer comes up and says, hey, I've got a lot of FM in this bin, I don't know what to do with it. Man, send them a vac, send them something, take a little or give a little.
Get down to the sweep or something,
Let's help out.
And farmers, I think, have to get over the pride aspect, because I put myself in that situation, and the first thing I think, if I'm honest with myself, I'm not going to call the elevator because I don't want to admit that my corn is bad.
Right.
I don't want to admit that I've let it go that way.
Yep.
So then you do stupid stuff, and pride could get you killed. I mean, it's
easily.
Again and again. You and I are in a very lucky situation where we can get out and we can talk to a lot of farmers. Emily and I made a decision going back to well over a year ago that didn't matter what the speech was going to be. We were going to end it talking about needing to end this stigma of mental health in agriculture.
Yep.
And every time I get to that point in the meeting, it never fails, because you're always watching the audience, right?
Right.
And you always want this. I'm doing it like they can see me. You always want eye-to-eye
You're very
contact.
animated.
Yes. Every time I bring that up, the heads go down.
Yep.
And I used to think that, well, it just don't want to hear about it. That's the boring part of the speech. It's still a stigma, blah, blah, blah. But after speeches, 90% of what people come up and talk to me about is that mental health.
Yeah.
So do you see any sort of reaction? Like when you switch these gears? Because, I mean, this is not what your speeches are about.
Right. And usually I'll say, and lately the market outlook speeches haven't been great either. But usually, I'll tell them, hey, now I'm going to, any questions on whatever I just finished up with, whichever one I did, crop or whatever we talked about. I'll say, any questions on that, because I've got a quick story that I want to tell you, and it's not about what we just talked about. And so then I'll go ahead and segue into it and let them know, hey, this is what I'm going to tell you about. And at first, they're kind of like, dude, you've been up here for 40 minutes. Let's go. But most of the time, they get a few minutes into it and they realize what's probably coming. All of a sudden, now they're hooked. Now they're in. I think it's been good. I did it in Alabama. We have a big customer down there that I just love going down there. And the response down there was really good. I mean, a lot of people came up and said, they really appreciated hearing that. And I think that's what it's going to take, is making it personal.
You think just the scale of agriculture? I mean, it wasn't very long ago that you didn't see these large bins on a person's farm. They were elevators. Do you think that is why we're seeing an increase?
I do. I think that, and we've all got so many other things to do, right? We're all so busy that we want to worry about something else, or we want to, everything else is on our mind. And a lot of people don't know how to handle that much storage at once. When I'm talking to a customer about a new facility or something, I kind of have a max bin. I like to tell them I'm a 105 guy on the commercial side, 105-foot diameter bin. And I tell them because I don't think people can handle those bigger bins. I just think it's too much grain. You got a problem in a big bin, that's a big problem. Yeah. And so I think the same thing, just like you said, I think it's happening on the farm is, a big bin on a farm now is 60 to 100,000. You got a problem, that's a big problem.
Yeah. This is going way back to the early episodes. We did a grain entrapment one. People were bringing up this sump saver. It's a deal where you run the hydraulic hoses in there and then it will stir it up. And the guy actually reached out to me, the guy that owned the company. Yes, there was a case where a family member, and he doesn't want to talk about, which is fine, but this is what he does. And in my mind, I'm going, these things are expensive and price of corn and whatever and that. But I mean, that's the type of mentality that we just need to get.
You got to get over it.
Because when the grain stops flowing, I freak out a little bit in my head because I'm like, what's going to happen? Then you go do the slide back and forth. And I don't have my own trucks. So if these guys are sitting, then all of a sudden I seem to lose my trucks.
Right.
You start doing everything you can as quick as you can. And that's where you start getting into that. I don't have those sump savers, and I'm an idiot for not doing it.
Yeah. And the thing is, Grain can go out of condition on anybody. I've seen the best elevator operations people have grain go out of condition.
Yeah.
And so we've got to get past. Now, there are people that it goes out of condition every year.
Yeah.
That's a different issue. But it will go out of condition on everybody. I mean, it's just...
well, it's not very hard to get that leak or whatever right in the middle, and you don't know it, and then that's where your clog is.
Yep.
And, yeah.
I mean, you've got a product with moisture in it. It's going to have some issues.
Mm-hmm.
So...
Okay. Well, you're doing a good thing. I know it's never easy to put yourself out there.
It's been interesting, the reaction. I did run it past my wife beforehand and then kind of went through the spiel with her of what I wanted to say. And she was in Texas with me at the NGFA and asked if I wanted her to go and be in the crowd. And I just didn't want to do that to her. And so I said, it's up to you if you want to, but I think it'll be hard. And I'm glad she didn't, because I think the movie would have been hard on her.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I would imagine.
Yep.
That movie's been hard on anybody that's seen that, but it's still, I'm really glad he did it.
I'm really glad he did it. I think they did a really good job with it. I mean, I know it's a movie, right? So you have to do some things for the movie, but ultimately, I think they did a really good job of telling a story. I really do.
Yeah. And, to Egg's credit, I mean, the little stuff in your mind, you're going like, oh, that's not right. I haven't really heard many people nitpick that stuff, so that's good. The overall story is good.
We need to get past that anyway, in a lot of areas in life.
And this guy, he's talking about doing other ag stuff, ag suicide and that. But unfortunately, you talk about everything get caught up in this mess of COVID. Well, there's no screenings going on.
No.
And that sucks.
Yeah, it's the vid. You get the vid.
Yeah, it's too bad. But
you had an early episode where a guy got old guy crabby on you, and he started calling you Bub. Remember that? Can I just call you Bub all the time?
Who the hell was that?
It was like the first...
Nate Chittenden. He's a few slices short of a loaf. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He's not quite right.
Yeah.
Yeah, he started calling me Bub.
Hey, Bub.
Bub. And I let it go like the first couple times because I didn't quite know what he was saying.
What do you call me that for? He goes, what do you mean, Bub?
Nate. You're a very established guy in the ag community. I mean, you've done it. Mm-hmm. You've done so many things and so many jobs that you really sit back and think about what you were doing. It's damn impressive.
Oh, thank you.
So why, at such an old age, would you want to improve and go through a leadership course?
I looked at it as a challenge. We had a few other people at Growmark that had gone through it, and I asked them about it and what their experience was, and they kept saying, the same thing we've all talked about. The people that you get to be associated with and that you'll make contact with and you'll keep talking with later, that's the key to it. You're going to get great experiences. I mean, some of the experiences we had, I'm ready to go back to Japan right now. I take a
great toilets there.
Yeah. That Shabu Shabu restaurant we went to, oh my gosh, maybe not a better meal ever had.
Here, I got to interrupt you because we got out of that and I texted Emily from Japan. I was like, hey, I just had the best meal of my life. The bill was $400. Love you.
Yeah.
And that's all I said. And she
got an Audi to ride back to the hotel.
Yes. And she replies, oh, I'm so happy for you.
Hope you have $350 on you.
We didn't pay for it.
Nope.
Yes, no, we didn't.
We did not, but it was really good.
I think, to this day, that is the best meal experience I've ever had in my life. That was incredible.
It was incredible. But anyway, those experiences. So I really felt like a challenge. I would, if somebody came to me today and said, hey, we've got this idea or this class or this experience we want you to work out for us. It's just another challenge. Are you interested? I would take it. I think you always should be challenging yourself, and I think that's what keeps you young.
Just personally, you want to be driven to be better.
Yep.
Okay.
And I really, like I mentioned, I would take a class at Kellogg right now. I just thought that was a great experience.
Kellogg School in Chicago.
School at Northwestern.
Yeah. It was an incredible leadership type of thing. They brought in like a ballet dancer.
Yeah.
They brought in different stuff that we wouldn't think of to kind of challenge the way that we were thinking.
Yeah. But ultimately, everybody I talked to was right. The people, the friendships, and the relationships developed from the other classmates, that was the best part of it.
All right, and this is not to sound arrogant on your part, right? I look at that, and I looked at you sitting there, and you were paying attention, and I'm thinking a lot of this stuff is probably below Dan, but just because of the experience that you've had. I mean, do you sit there and do you get caught up in that? Are you still getting stuff out of these speakers that are brought in?
I mean, I really don't. It all depends, right? If you're really busy, if you got a lot of things going on in your head and everything's running and you're like, listen, been there, done that. Oh, I got other things to do. Let's go.
Mm-hmm.
But you've got to look at everybody else in the room and think that there's something I can get out of this, right? Somebody's going to say something. Somebody's going to bring something up and I'm going to get something out of it. And so that's just, you mentioned it before. I struggle to, I'm animated. I'm on a bunch of different things at once. So I've got to work hard to make sure I'm paying attention. I just felt like I'm going to catch something from somebody else and learn something here. So,
Like a disease,
like
Corona. It's interesting. I got a lot of it, and most of what you get out of it is the network.
Yep.
And I remember the first meeting, I kind of rolled my eyes at that. The network, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
But here we
Hashtag
are.
network.
Having an interview right here.
I mean, it's crazy.
This is the best experience of my life right now.
As of today. Well, it was funny. You interviewed Mark Bremer, and the funniest thing was, I think it was the second class we were at. Bremer walks up to me, and he goes, hey, were you in a group on a ranch in Wyoming? And I looked at him, I said, well, a buddy of mine ran that operation. I said, I own some purebred English. He goes, yeah, I was the cowboy on the neighboring ranch. I know I've seen you out there before. And I'm like, what the? It's that kind of stuff. First of all, that's just a Bremer story. But that kind of stuff is cool to me.
He was episode number 2.
Yeah.
And your episode, 206?
I know. I mean, when I looked at it, I really thought I'd be in the mid 3s. And so really I've overachieved in my head.
Yeah. I don't know if I've really told this before, but I was in that class, and at that point I was kicked out of Farm Bureau, right? And I was just
You were asked to leave the room. Yeah.
I was kind of floating around life, and everybody in there was so damn driven. Everybody in there was doing other stuff. Everybody in there was going to take on the world, and I started kind of thinking I needed to do something. I wanted to do something.
Mm-hmm.
I had that need to create. And then, with Carrie Zoka doing the podcast and kind of talking about it, I mean, I think between Carrie and between this class is a reason that I started the Shark Farmer podcast. And you all laughed at me when I said I was going to do it.
Well, that's because you had such a problem speaking to people, making eye contact, and you. I really think, and I'll give you some props. I mean, you and Emily both have done unbelievable with this and what you've done. And I remember you saying maybe one of the times I'll say room together. I'm probably one of the only people besides your wife that got to, sleep with you in the same hotel room.
Steve Bridge did.
Yeah. Yeah. So my point is, I just think you mentioned it a couple times. What do I do if the kids all want to come back to the farm?
Yeah.
And I think you've taken this and shown that you can diversify, not necessarily in the farm, but you can diversify in other things. And there's a way to support people and support a family doing it.
It's all going to be gone tomorrow.
Well,
people are pissed that he haws off the show. Oh, man.
You couple hee-haw in this episode. Sorry about that. Yeah.
I think that's it. Yeah. You have to expand your network. And there was people in that class that I wouldn't normally talk to. I mean, I think of Whit Dahmer and the incredible stuff he did. We probably would have never ran into the same circles.
Right.
But, here we are. I mean, even like next week, I'm interviewing Julie Wankel's sister. You can never go wrong having a good network of successful people. The problem is when you get those negative ones, right? Because they'll just want to drag you down.
Well, yeah, you've got to watch out for them and kind of move on past them. But I always tell people, listen, you don't have to have all the best tools. You don't have to have all the smarts. You don't have to know everything. You have to know people that know or have the things you don't know or have. That's the key.
That's confusing.
A little bit.
Not sure what he just said. I'll have to diagram that.
It's going to be half this episode.
How's the family?
It's interesting times, right? They're doing fine. We had our first grandchild in September.
Yeah,
little girl. I know. I am. But my Corona haircut's making me look younger, so I'm happy with that.
Actually, it's not looking bad.
We just buzzed the sides, and
Did you
that's
color that.
Not yet, but
really, that's impressive.
I know, 56, buddy, 56, and looking sweet.
Okay, I didn't make it that long before I had to start touching stuff up. But moving on, the family.
So we have 3. Our oldest is married, lives in Normal, and both her and her husband work for Illinois State. Mm-hmm. Our second one is a nurse practitioner, and so she's kind of out there in it right now. She does rounds at nursing homes and assisted living, so pretty much every day worry about her, but so far doing really well. The problem is, since we've seen her and been around her, we can't go see the granddaughter.
Yeah.
And so it's been really hard on my wife. She was sitting with her once a week, and now we haven't. From the yard to the road, we can sit and talk to her, get pictures, but really hard. And then My youngest, my son, is a freshman at Notre Dame. He's taking class in our sunroom. And, it was one of those things where he went there, and at first we really thought, man, does he like it here? But then all of a sudden, about a month into it, oh my gosh, he loved it, loved the experience, loved the culture of Notre Dame, and now he's home. And he made the comment one day, he said, yeah, busted my butt to get into Notre Dame, and now I'm taking class in a sunroom. So that's been tough, but they're really good. They all take after my wife, so they all are overachievers and smart kids, and they can sell like me, smart like their wife.
Goodness,
like
they
wife.
took after your wife with the looks.
Oh, give thanks every day for that.
Yeah. Was there a family history at Notre Dame?
No, it's kind of interesting. He's always been real driven. My oldest went to Illinois State and then got her master's at Ball State. Second one is Wesleyan, and now she actually got a nurse practitioner at Vanderbilt and is getting her doctorate there. And then
That's at Nashville, right?
Yeah, it is. It's a great school. And then he always kind of set the goal, Notre Dame for undergrad, and then he wants to go to law school. And it was interesting. I have a picture of him and a buddy of his at 8th grade at a Notre Dame football game. Beforehand, we'd walked out of under the dome, and I said to both boys, man, it'd be cool to have this your everyday when you're in school. And the other kid, he had an Illinois hat on. And he said, I'm going to go to Illinois and go to engineering school. And my son, Mark, said, I'm going to Notre Dame, then I'm going to law school. And they're both at those two places where they said they would go. So it's kind of cool that he just kind of set that goal, and that was it. So.
Rudy. That is probably, I'm trying to think. I would say that is the most beautiful campus I've ever been on in my life.
Yeah, it really is. We'd been there to a few games, and we did the tour. It was the coolest thing. I'll tell you a quick story. Like I said, he's my kid, I'll brag, but he takes after his mother. Super smart kid. Had a lot of different cool colleges reach out. We were at Nashville at Vanderbilt for a tour there. We got in the car coming home, and he said, I think this is it, Dad. I really like Vanderbilt. It's beautiful. I want to go here. And I said, Bud, we got one more tour, and it's Notre Dame. Wait till we do that visit, then you decide. We get to Notre Dame, go through the tour. At the end, we get in the car, and he said, no. He said, when I'm here, I feel like I'm home. He said, I just feel naturally.
It's so cool looking.
And so his mom and I, my wife and I, are like, that's what we want. We want you to feel safe, want you to feel at home, want you to be challenged, all that crap, but feel at home. And so he asked for early commitment in the fall, didn't get it. Got deferred till the spring. In the spring, got his letter, hey, you've been waitlisted. And it was crushing, right? But first Friday in May, he got a call. And it was the guy we talked to, Mr. Perkins. Mr. Perkins said, Mark, you got a few minutes? Yep, I want to offer you admissions, class 2023. Welcome to the family. Your packet will show up Monday. Now, remember what he said. When he was here, he felt like home, right? Mm-hmm. Monday, gets his packet. It's got a big ND. We're taking his picture with it. He opens it up, and the whole thing on the front page says, welcome home.
There you go.
Oh, I know. It was crazy. Yeah, so...
Yeah, that is anybody who hasn't been there. Emily, what was the campus that Anita did, the ballet that was so pretty?
Is it Webster?
Webster, yeah. But still, I would say Notre Dame blows it away.
Yeah.
If you ever get a chance to even drive through Notre Dame, just do it.
Go there or just grab some tickets to a football game and experience the day. He's on the Glee Club there, so they do a concert before every home game, and they do a lot of concerts there in tuxes. It's just a beautiful place. Great culture.
That's not that far away either.
Yeah. And then our girls, you just mentioned with your daughter in ballet, our girls both danced in a company. That was cool. I remember talking about that when we were in the class, that the kids all did that. So
you talk about networking. The Webster, I mean, we helped get into that from the ballet person that talked at Kellogg.
Yep.
It's all a big circle. All right.
Yeah.
Dan Mehochko, you're a very impressive individual. Anybody that meets you, I mean,
thank you.
Once I get over you.
I get that part. Yeah.
No, you're very intelligent. I like the way you always challenge yourself. And the way that you have opened yourself up about this grain entrapment and what happened with your family, I think is very impressive because all the stuff you've done, incredibly impressive. But to take that extra step, I know how hard that is.
Yeah. I just think it's been good for us, good for me, but that's not the point. If it stops one person, if they think, hey, I heard that one guy, I heard him speak one time and he mentioned his story, I got to step back and think about this. If that's the case, perfect. It's all worth it.
Yeah. Well, Dan Mehochko, I appreciate you being my friend for the last how many years, and I want to thank you for taking some time and driving here. It's breaking COVID.
I appreciate.
Let's not tell the governor.
I appreciate the text, bub.
And thank you very much. And everybody else, we hope you catch us next week.
And thank you for listening to the Shark Farmer Podcast. I am your host, Rob Sharkey. Please visit us at www.sharkyfarms.com. And just search for Shark Farmer to follow me on Twitter. Later.